the first thing that you do is you cook the lentils. These are lentils. They say chia, but that's misleading. It's because they're from the bulk section. But inside you'll see that they're lentils. So 2 cups. This measurement is a little bit more than like a standard cup, but you use 2 cups. And it's important to rinse grains to clean them. So I'm going to clean them. You don't need to shoot. Okay.
So you rinse them first and then you just put some water in.
Yeah, I'm just rinsing them one more time. Okay, so you have 2 cups of lentils and you put about 5 cups of water and half an onion just like this, and some bay leaves like this, and then a bit of salt. And then you put these to cook, and in the meantime, so I'm just going to put this right here. Okay, so the lentils are cooking. You take the rest of this onion and you dice it. Like so. And then in a different pot, you heat another pot. And when it's hot, you add a little bit of oil. Okay, so it's hot. So you add about like 2 tablespoons of oil. And the onion. So this is half an onion because it's what's left over from the lentils. But actually I want an onion, so I'm going to use a half of this other one. So I'm going to save this for something else, and I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to put this in as well. So I'm going to saute these onions until they are translucent. It'll take like a few minutes. And I'm going to add some salt to them. And the bay leaf, because why not? And it's a little dry, so I'm going to add a bit more oil. So you don't want the onion to have color. So you just want them to be translucent, but not brown. I would say it takes like less than 5 minutes. Like maybe 3 or so. So you want it to get kind of like soft, like this. Okay, once you've reached this point, you add about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. You can do the canned one. I just made tomato the other day, so I have this. And the tomato paste that you buy in a can is a little bit like more intense than what I have here. So I'm going to put a little bit more, but you should be okay with about 3 tablespoons of it. So once you put the tomato in, you cook it for another few minutes. And if you're using the paste from the can, it might look a little bit drier than this. If so, just add a little bit of oil and a little bit of water. but this is like about the right consistency. And then you add a bit of cumin. Powder is okay too. I just have the seeds. That's why I'm using that. But powder is fine.
How many patties are you going to be able to do with the amount? So 2 cups of lentils and 1.5 onions. How many patties do you think you'll be able to do?
Well, the patties are like quite small. They're like this big. But I think this will be like enough to feed about 6 people.
Okay.
So I added some pepper. So I'm also going to add some chili flakes. You don't have to add these if you don't want it to be spicy, but I like it spicy, so there. So mine is drying a little, so I'm going to add just the rest of my tomato. And that's just because I just want to use it up because there was so little there left over. So you sort of let this like cook the liquid out and reduce. You keep your eye on the lentil because if you don't, it will boil over. So these are fine. They're doing their thing. This foam is normal when you cook different lentils and beans. The normal thing. Okay, so the tomatoes are at a good place right now, so I'm going to turn it off and just keep it in the pot. So you see they're starting to get kind of translucent on the side, but you can still see that the middle is like a little bit hard, so or like still solid.
And the onion that you put in the lentils is basically just for flavoring.
Yeah. Yeah, that onion is just kind of swimming in there. You can see it there. So when you buy bulgur, there's different numbers, and they correspond with the how fine the grain is. Here, this one is a slightly coarser one. Usually when you make this, the finer one is kind of better, again, because it makes that consistency that you need. But this is all I had. So whatever you have is kind of fine. I think the lentils are almost cooked now. So I'm going to add about a cup of bulgur into that. If you were to have the finer bulgur, at this point you could just turn off the heat and the bulgur would cook with the steam and the warm lentils. But since these are a little bit coarser, I'm going to keep the heat on for another little while, and so that it absorbs this water. You see how it's still like it's kind of liquidy? So yeah, you kind of put them in, mix it so it's homogeneous.
Do you think buckwheat would work?
Maybe. I'm not sure, but possibly. At the end, I mean, as you go along, you'll kind of see the consistency that the paste becomes. And I think couscous would work, maybe.
Huh.
Yeah, couscous I think would be the best bet. Like a finer, you want kind of like a finer, starchy, you know, grain. The heat is still on right now. Still cooking, as you can see. You see how it absorbed the water. And keep your eye on it so it doesn't dry out and burn at the bottom. But I'm just letting it cook a little bit more. Oh, and at this point you add more olive oil. So I'm gonna add about like a 1/4 cup. And then after, so if you're using the coarser bulgur, I would continue to keep the fire on for about 5 minutes and then turn it off. And then what happens is that the lentils and bulgur continue cooking with the steam. If you were to use the fine one, then you would turn the fire off right away and just keep them in there again to cook with the steam. And that process usually takes like a little while, like I would say 20 minutes or so. Once you turn the fire off. But my fire is still on. You can see it's becoming like pastier, which is good. But you just don't want it to burn on the bottom. So at this point, it's absorbed most of the water. So it's a good point to turn it off. And you just have to keep it covered. It's really important that it's covered because it's cooking from the steam. So you just keep it in there for a little while.
So are you just adding the bulgur to the lentils after the lentils have cooked a little?
Yeah, because the bulgur takes way less time. It kind of cooks in the steam.
Okay. Thank you.
So you can get like I don't know what bulgur you have, but there are usually two kinds, a finer one and a coarser one. If you use the coarser one, then as I did, I kept the heat on for like another 5 minutes and cooked them together and then turned it off. But if you have the finer one, which is actually the one I recommend for this, you can turn it off right away and it will cook in the steam within like 20 minutes or so.
Oh, okay, perfect.
You said this is a Turkish thing. Do you know what it's called in Turkey?
Yeah, it's called mercimek köftesi, which means lentil köfte.
Okay.
Can you hear, or is that like bubbling sound disturbing?
No, we can hear well.
Okay.
Do you recommend like a tomato paste or like a pureed canned tomato? Or
whatever you have is kind of fine. I would use either.
okay, thank you.
If you use a paste and it dries out, then add a little bit of water. This is the right consistency here.
Okay.
Everything that I make, especially when it's just like for home, like not for work, is really flexible. I think it's important to not, you just have to use your senses, use what you have.
LAILA, did you grow up in some ways like connected to this dish, or is this like more of a newer dish that you learned?
Yeah, I mean, in Turkish cuisine, this is a really popular thing, and you see it kind of like everywhere.
Did you live in Turkey?
For a short while, yeah. I grew up mostly in Cairo, but we would go there often. My mom lives there now, so I go there often.
Where, in Istanbul, or?
Yeah. So yeah, it's something that you find like on restaurant menus in people's homes, etc. Okay, so this has been steaming in here for like about 15 minutes. Usually I would leave it for like another 10 minutes, just for the sake of getting the show on the road. I'm gonna move to the next step. So you take out the onion, which is already cooked, and the bay leaf. So you see this kind of mashed potato consistency? This is like what you're looking for. Okay, and you turn the heat back on here for the tomato. And heat that back up. Take this bay leaf out too. So you wait till this is like sizzling. which will be just like a minute or so. Okay, so this is hot. And you take a lentil mixture and you put it in here. And then you combine it. And the whole thing has to get like kind of red. And you do this on like a medium heat. So in the beginning, there's like still, you know, some liquid in here. And you're kind of cooking this off now to make it a little bit stiffer. And you'll see by the end how it's going to change a little bit. And the moisture is going to dry out a little bit. And while you're doing this, you should add about 1 lemon. I have these Mexican limes, but I think I prefer lemon, but you know, work with what you have. This is about the equivalent of 1 lemon, maybe a little bit more. And you keep stirring. And the idea is that after a little while, this will be stiffer and kind of like leave the sides of the pot when you mix it. But we're not there yet. So I can feel when I'm mixing that it's starting to get a little bit heavier, which is what you're going for.
So you want it to get a little heavier. You don't want it to like stay.
Yeah, so as it gets heavier, you'll see that it kind of pulls away from the sides of the pan, which is a good thing. You want it to dry out a little bit.
So it became more of a paste, I can see. It's more
it becomes like stiffer and like pastier. And you're just cooking the water out, the moisture out of it. So you see how it's kind of starting to like leave the pan? That's good. So at this point, it's a good idea to taste it. I think I need more salt. So I'm gonna add some.
What is it that you're adding? Salt?
Salt, yeah. So it's important to taste your food as you make it. I tasted this and I thought I needed a little salt and some more chili flakes, which are optional. And I'm also going to add a little bit more cumin, which I had added earlier. I think it needs like a little bit more. If you use tomato paste, The color might be a little bit redder, a little bit darker, which is okay. So you see now it's like really coming together. And I would say towards the end, the consistency has to be like a thick cookie dough, which is what's starting to happen. And it gets harder to like mix it like this with the spoon. You think I should add chili flakes? So we like it really spicy. So I'm gonna add some more. You see how it's like leaving the thing, the pan? That's what I meant.
Yeah, it started looking more like a dough as it goes. So it kind of dries out, basically. It kind of dries out a little bit.
Yeah, it dries out. I'm going to taste it again. I think it's good now. So once you have this kind of like dough-like consistency, that's not so wet, like this, you're in a good place. And now you can turn it off. And I'm gonna move it to another bowl just to cool faster. You can leave it in here and cover it if you want, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in here. You see how it like, it's not as sticky anymore? That's good.
Yeah, truly.
So I'm gonna let this cool for a while with some lettuce. Usually you eat it like inside a lettuce, kind of like a lettuce wrap. And my lettuce is like a little bit sad. So I'm gonna put it in ice cold water because that will bring your lettuce or any greens back to life. So this is really cold. Just gonna let it hang out in there for a while. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take like a handful of parsley, which I just washed. And I'm just gonna slice it, chop it. Okay, so that's pretty good. And right now you are waiting for the lentil to cool down. Yeah. Oh, here I reset my situation a little bit for the next step. So the idea is to just wait till this is like cool enough so that you can handle it. This will probably take you like 10 minutes. I can touch things that are really hot. So I'm just gonna go ahead now. When it cools, you add the parsley directly to it. Just don't add the parsley while it's hot. Just like so. And mix it. Until you just kind of fold the parsley in. So it's one homogeneous thing. Okay, and then when you're ready, you get a little bowl and you put some water in it. This is to keep your hands wet, which will make it easier. So now that the lettuce has been in the ice water, you can see that it's like perkier, happier looking. So I'm gonna take it and dry it. Where's the salad spoon? Here? So I'm kind of a freak about wet lettuce. I like it to be dry, really dry. So I'm just gonna quickly put it in the salad spinner. So this lettuce is semi-dry. Okay, should be dry now. So I eat them like little lettuce wraps. So I put some lettuce down on the plate. There. You have a little lettuce bed. And then you wet your hands. The palm of your hand has to be a little bit wet so it doesn't stick. And then you go like this. You take about this much. And you put one right there. If you find that it's like sticking, it's because your hands are not wet. You don't want your hands to be like soaking. Probably maybe just don't move it. Just do it just a little high. So on the top, I'm going to put some more chili flakes. You don't have to do this if you don't want it spicy. And I'm going to squeeze a little lemon. You should do this because it's a good idea.
Looks delicious, Dan.
And to eat it, I like to eat it inside a lettuce wrap, like so. And you just eat it. It's good.
Yes,
This will
it looks good.
keep in the fridge really well. You just need to cover it. Like I would take the whole thing and saran the whole thing directly, because if not, it can kind of dry out. Yeah, just as long as you cover it somehow, it will be good.
That's a good amount. It came out a lot of, like, actually more than I thought it was going to come out.
It's really economic. A little goes a long way. Sometimes I add scallions at this point when I add parsley, but unfortunately I didn't have scallions today. But if you do, you should chop them and you can add them at this point as well.
So in terms of bulgur, you only put like 1 cup. Was it 1 cup or half cup? How much was it?
Yeah, it's 2-to-1 ratio. So if you do 2 cups of lentil, which is what I did, you do 1 cup bulgur.
Okay.
If you want half of this amount, you can do 1 cup lentil and then you would do half cup bulgur.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And you said as an alternative, it could maybe
Recognize
do...
the voice? It's Lele.
Lele?
Omar's here. He just walks in.
It's Lele?
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear him?
Hey, Lele. What's
Hello.
up? What are you doing?
We're doing a video.
Oh,
Watching the video.
is that for 8-ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Leila.
Okay, thanks, Lele.
That was awesome.
Everyone
Thanks,
says bye.
everyone. Sending love to everybody.
To you as well. Thanks for doing this.